Welcome to our pod. By that, I mean Wednesdays we read. I'm Hannah,
I'm Laura.
and we are two best friends who do a deep dive into a new book series, one book at a time. Right now, we are cycling through Legendborn, and we are doing a deep dive into Tracy Deonn's Legendborn series, and we are finishing up the plot of book one, a plot that everyone saw coming, but we still enjoyed watching it happen.
A plot that we knew was coming, but
I,
somehow it got so all over the place, like it zigzagged all over that I didn't know how we got there, but we did.
but we did, and like the final chapters, I was like, wait, what happened there? Excuse me.
I put
And
a
sometimes
message up on Discord because it's like, okay, I'm done with the book, but what amount of time has passed since the beginning? And you said 2 weeks, to which I said,
2 weeks.
but they're in love.
Oh gosh. All right. Well, guys, if you hear a little bit of reverb from Hannah, we do apologize. I've had technical difficulties, as in the microphone I bought for myself 2 years ago when we started this podcast, decided to die right before we started recording after I lost power in my house for 48 hours. It's been a mess of a week. And it is Monday when we are recording, as always. Do you
I'm
remember
gonna
when
try
we
to work some magic in editing, but I'm not that skilled. So
she's not that skilled. So
unfortunately, we might just have to have a quieter, a little echo, a little more
a
echo
little more echoey, a little
on
bit
Hannah's
softer
end.
from Hannah. I can't scream like I usually do, and I
Yeah,
am the
let's
one who
not scream.
speaks the most in this episode. So,
Yes, which
so
is
sorry.
unfortunate that this plot episode still.
I know. But Laura, before we listen to me softly tell you what I read, watched, and or enjoyed, what did you read, watch, and or enjoy this week?
So first, I just want to direct everyone over to FBoL with Emily Edwards.
Mm.
We were on her podcast and we talked about Girl Wash Your Face, with
Oh,
which was written by Rachel Hollis. Why could I not think of her name? And
because we immediately stopped thinking about her the second we
I,
finished
you
that
know
episode.
what? I'd never stop thinking about her. I'm always enraged. But I kept it together and I thought we had a pretty thoughtful discussion in
Hmm.
terms of that book and the author. I was a little mortified hearing the clip of myself that Emily put up because I say like so many times and then I had imposter syndrome where I was like, you're not supposed to be a podcaster. You say like too much. You sound like a Midwestern Valley girl. But it is what it is, and I can't control my anxiety.
Uh,
So,
so I actually was listening to a recent episode of 99% Invincible, where it's one of their mini-sodes, and they were talking about the word like and different words that are filler words and how they're
mhm.
actually they're hard to do in podcasting because podcasting you do want it to sound more polished, but in a normal everyday conversation, like is not as bad as people think it is because it is part of the conversation. Like it's supposed to be telling you when I'm still continuing a thought versus when my thought has ended. It helps like you get the cues to know that like that I keep saying like because we're talking about
Mhm.
it, but like
Yep.
it lets you know that my thought is continuing, but I probably need to pause. So it lets you know, hey, it's not
Gives
time
you
to
time to
share.
think.
Hmm. It's hard in a podcast because we're inviting other people into the conversation. So they're not going to need
Hmm.
that pause the same way you would need that pause, which is why
Yeah.
people often edit out likes. Fascinating stuff. But Emily Edwards
I
is a one woman
generally
show and
do
she
not edit
cannot
out
do that.
like for
See?
myself. I leave it in there. I You get most of my flaws.
We're
When I
all flaws here.
you get most of my flaws, listeners. But I am a chronic liker. I have been since 8th grade. Who knows? When did I start talking?
When did I start talking eighth grade, Laura?
I was a very quiet child, actually, but I probably have used like chronically since 8th grade as
Fair
a filler
enough.
word. And I really think a lot of it stems from being really shy and uncomfortable speaking to other people and in groups and just having a deep amount of social anxiety. So when I would get the opportunity, I would use it as a filler word instead of it would be like. So eh,
So I
I've
used to
never
be a
outgrown it.
lawyer, as you know. I used to be a lawyer.
Yes. I knew that
Uh,
about you.
I had to take depositions, and you have to read your own words, and someone literally transcribes exactly what you say,
I would hate
likes, and
that.
all. And so I taught myself in a deposition to not say the word out loud, but just like quietly be like, and then I would say, like,
Sure.
start my sentence so that you couldn't pick up on what was actually being said. And I had to teach myself how to do that so that you didn't have to read and this, and that. Because, like, you read the words,
Hmm.
you're just sitting there thinking, I am the dumbest human
You're like,
alive.
who could stand to listen to me?
Well, and it sucks because like you have to put certain things in a court transcript. Like if you're making an argument before the court, you would have to take blocks of your own dialogue and put it into it. And so if you have a ton of filler words, they have to go in there, or you have to like edit them out and be like edit it or something. You have to
Oh,
put something in. It was very annoying and I hated it. So that's
yeah.
a fun thing.
It's difficult to listen to yourself speak, but then to even read it, it's all there
The
in
own
print and
brand of
it
horrifying.
can't be erased. Oh,
No.
even worse.
You can't turn
Even
yourself on two times the
worse.
speed and be like, I'm funny and quick-witted, and I never hear the like
It's
because
like,
I'm on
wow,
two
I
times the
never
speed.
pause when I'm speaking. This is great.
I sound so smart. And sometimes you listen to too many episodes of yourself, and then you think you have to talk fast during the podcast episode. You're like, you need to talk like a normal human, Hannah.
There's a weird thing where when I'm editing the podcast, I listen to it at normal speed, but then for some reason when I listen to it, if I ever listen to it, because sometimes I do not listen to it. A lot of times I do not listen to it, but I'll listen to it faster and it goes so much quicker. And I'm like, wow, I thought there was like weird pauses when I was saying this before. And yes, there were weird pauses when I was trying to describe things in real time, but when you up the speed, it flows so much better.
Oh, good.
But everyone check out Emily's
Please do
episode on
that.
FBoL, Girl Wash Your Face. That was a lot of fun. And also check out Emily's other work, the Girl Friday series, the Vivian and
Mhm.
Valentine gets her man. Vivian and Valentine goes up a river, and Vivian and Valentine and the ticking clock.
Yes,
That's the
which
third
I'm reading
one.
right now.
Oh, you are reading right now. I have it on NetGalley and I
Mhm.
haven't read it yet. And I really got to get better about NetGalley.
I've been so behind on NetGalley. I feel like this is the year of Hannah internal anxiety, making it impossible to do simple tasks. And NetGalley
Sure.
is really reflecting that with how many books are still have already been published, but they're still sitting there looking at me, waiting for me to review them. So,
I know that's my problem too. I was shocked that I actually got a book that I had requested recently, and I was like, oh, I can't believe that that happened
right? I
because
know.
my NetGalley stats are bad. So, anyways,
Okay,
what
but
I
what are you
have
reading,
other things
watching,
I've
and or
been
enjoying? You did not
reading and
enjoy Rachel
watching.
Hollis's book.
No, I don't enjoy
Listen to
that,
the
but
episode
I
to
enjoy
find out
Emily
more.
Edwards. So
Yes.
go listen to FBoL. Okay, I did also listen to recently Hercule Poirot's Christmas. This is
Mm-hmm.
written by Agatha Christie. I'm a bit of an Agatha Christie fan.
Mm-hmm.
Very formulaic books that the writing is good. I think that Christie is a stellar writer in terms of mystery, but definitely a product of its time. Again, mentioned in this was someone escaping from an asylum, possibly being a killer. And I don't know why that is so common
It's
in
almost like
Christie's
we
books.
fear mental health issues dating
I
back
just
generation.
just why? Just why?
Yeah.
But I will say that I generally enjoy all of Christie's books. Warts and all, I am willing to call out the issues with them, but I generally enjoy them. They're usually like 3 to 4 stars always for me. I think they're fun, and this was a fun book, and I enjoyed the narrator. I think I'm gonna maybe listen to some more of her books instead of just reading the paperbacks because I think that the narrators are pretty good. The Hercule Poirot series is probably my favorite of her series because Miss
Hmm.
Marple is fun, but I I think I like Hercule Poirot better. And
I just started my first Agatha Christie novel ever.
okay,
I
which
was
one?
reading it. I was reading, and then there were none to my
Yes,
partner
yes,
as
yes.
we sat in the dark. because we usually watch TV when we go to
Hmm.
sleep together, and it's usually murder mysteries.
Sure.
And I was like, well, there's nothing to do in this dark, dark area as we slept by a fire so we could keep warm when we had no power. And
Uh-huh.
I centered my own Agatha Christie-ness, and I was like, I will read by candlelight until bedtime. And then he fell asleep, and I put the book away and I
And
went
you're
to bed.
in a guest house traveling for a period of time. And if there would have been other people involved, it would have been
But
scary.
it is hard to read out loud when Agatha Christie had some not great takes on things like Jewish people. And I was like, oh, I have to read
Just
things
that,
out
yeah,
loud. I
within
haven't
that
gotten,
book itself, there are like the title of the book was changed because
yes, because it was
problematic,
horrifying. Yeah.
and the whole book is based upon a poem or a riddle or a nursery rhyme type thing
Hmm.
that is bad.
Yep.
So I I do
I,
think you have to come at this work literally from the standpoint of you know that it is
she's
going to
dead
be
now.
problematic. She is deceased and was a product of her time, and you have to recognize the issues that were in this book, but you can still say that she's pretty good at what she did. Wish
Hmm.
she wouldn't have been racist and
She,
like
pretty talented writer. Wish you weren't racist.
yeah, like some of these things are problematic and I don't like, but I wish that you would have, had a little more forward thinking. But I do enjoy Christie's writing, and I think that there's a reason that her books are bestsellers throughout the ages because she figured it out. She's got this formula down, and she's able to write really compelling mysteries, and uh, people connect with them.
Hmm.
So yeah, I'm probably gonna pick up some more of her books on Libby, just because
Yeah,
they're kind of widely available on Libby too, so easy to access.
fair.
But the other book that I read recently was the exact opposite in terms of like inclusion and thoughtfulness and kindness. I read Heartstopper, Volume 5 by Alice Oseman.
Mm,
Hannah, you and I love these graphic
they're
novels.
so
They're
cute.
They're so kind. I just started it on Friday and I finished it in one sitting because
Oh,
you
of
just
course.
you have to. You can't even
Yeah.
stop. And Nick and Charlie, they've gone through a lot. They're continuing to grow in their relationship and they're getting older and trying to learn more about themselves and what they want out of their relationship as well as where they personally need to grow and go.
Hmm.
And you're seeing that in this book, but something that stood out to me reading this was that I really connected with the adults in the book
Hmm.
more than the younger
Yeah,
characters. And I
because we're
don't,
adults.
well, the thing was, it was especially Charlie's mom was really
Hmm.
relatable. And did you read Volume 5 yet, Hannah?
I have. I've only read the first two, I believe,
Okay.
but I've seen season one and two of the show.
Okay. This was one where I very much felt connected to Charlie's mom and how she was feeling throughout this. And there's very much a thing where you can recognize as an adult how you would have felt as a teen, and you can see that in Charlie. And you can also, as an adult, more understand the way that the mother is feeling and what she's been through and why she is coming at situations related to Charlie from a different angle and
Right.
kind of holding Charlie a little bit closer than he maybe wants to be held. I I, I love these books and I put up a post on Blue Sky like immediately after or maybe the next day after I finished it and was like I hope that people are reading these books and really trying to like do the work that is within them, not just like saying, "Oh, these are great books." I think people should be really trying to be as kind and thoughtful as the characters are in this book because there are hard things that happen in these books.
Hmm.
And the way that everything is tackled with kindness and openness is so refreshing
Yeah.
because we don't get that a lot in the real world. We don't get people that are willing to have conversations and sit down and work through things like this. So I really, really loved it. And there's one more volume. Volume 6 is going to be the last one, the author said. And Alice Oseman, you're doing a great job. I need to watch more of the show. I only watched the first season of Heartstopper, so I
Ugh,
need to watch
it's
the second
so
season.
I love the second season so much. Yeah, I like how they've given a lot of like different identities, a lot of like
Yes.
focus. They've just done such a good job. And they also, you're right, they just show such a good thing of like actual teenagers being
Hmm.
teenagers. Like I think you and I grew up in an era of teenagers being precocious and being like often adults in the room.
Yeah.
A la like Gilmore Girls. Rory Gilmore was very much like an adult in a lot of situations.
I think a lot of I hate to just like say just our generation, like just millennials had to do this, but I feel like I see a lot of millennials who have a shared experience of either having to grow up quickly or feeling
Mhm.
like they had to grow up quickly, even though they maybe necessarily didn't have to. Because, like, a lot of people we know were privileged enough to
Right.
have been able to, be their age. But
Right.
I think there was an immense amount of pressure on millennials specifically to be older and to,
Yeah.
you got to be more mature. You got to be this and that's not
We
to say
got
that this
told
doesn't
what we were
exist
doing
for.
wrong a lot. Like we got told
Mhm.
we were wrong about everything we did and everything's always like a moment in time. We were the first generation that like had computers for the majority of our life before like Gen Z like grew up with only computers. So there's a difference there. And
Mhm.
like we were very much like we were also one of the first generations, us and like Gen Xers to a lesser extent, but still kind of we were the first group of people who kind of had TV catered to us a little bit.
Sure.
And I think there was still finding footing where it was like, well, we have millennial TV where it caters to millennials, but it's just like putting adult shows with teenagers. So like One
Yeah.
Tree Hill, I remember I loved One Tree Hill. I thought it was so good, but like they're all dealing with very adult things. They just happen to go to high school.
Mhm.
And I do think that like there has been more of a reckoning of like, hey, we need younger people in the writing room, or we need to ask like what actually high school students are doing. And that's to varying degrees of like success because
Mhm.
you have those. But I do think that there is a more focus on like, hey, young kids are going to have this happen to them no matter what. And let's like watch that experience instead of just pretending that like everyone has the same exact adult experience in high school and has like
Right.
where breakups might lead to just becoming friends again or this or that. It's not like I loved you. And it's like, well, you guys were in high
Right.
school, so different things. But
Yeah, there's a lot of millennial burnout too because of this that we don't see a lot of millennials that feel like they can really take on too much anymore,
no.
which is unfortunate. And again, not to say that there's not other generations that had to have a lot of growing up to do or didn't have to be mature because that's absolutely not true. I just think that there's definitely a unique situation concerning our generation where we grew up in a very privileged time, but we're still kind of told that, you got to grow up, you got to be mature, you got to do this, this, and this. So it's nice to see a show like this where the kids can just have joy and happiness and can go about like doing normal kid things. And that happens in this series. And I really like that. And I hope there's more like that, that people are kind and doing fun things and loving each other. It's what we need. But Hannah, I've done a lot of Marvel watching.
Oh no.
I've watched so much Marvel
I
within
know
the
you
past
have. I
year.
think you've surpassed me in like Marvelness. Like I
I
think you're the
I mean,
marvelous Marvel now.
I don't know I don't think I've watched more than you at this point, but I've watched quite a bit and I'm trying to decide where to even start because now they've added all these other shows that were on Netflix to Disney Plus. So now I looked at it the other day and I was like, I was just about caught up here. And then they added like Daredevil, Jessica
Okay.
Jones, and The Punisher, and all these other things. And I'm like, well, that's another 90 episodes.
I can say that I legitimately loved Jessica Jones season
Okay.
one. I never finished it. Like after season one, I was like, okay, that was really, really good. I just never went back to it. I like started watching it. I watched The Defenders. That was
Yep, The
fine.
Defenders is on there now too.
I really liked Daredevil too. I think like Daredevil and Jessica Jones were like the two first ones, so those were really
Yep.
good. Please do not watch The Iron Fist. Or if you do,
Oh, you don't like that
we
one?
it's so bad. Like it's more Iron Fist is just like, what if there was an ancient power that is built in martial arts and it was given to a mystical person and it was called the Iron Fist and you gave it to a billionaire blonde white man and he had to be trained by like actual martial artists, but he just walked around saying, I'm better than everyone. I'm the Iron Fist and I'm Buddhist. And you're just sitting there going, Sir, I hate you.
Oh my. That sounds like I would love it.
I
Uh,
remember I remember having a like I was
I
watching
wonder
it with
what
my
year was that?
it was too late. It was
Too late.
2016. It was too late.
Oh.
Okay, yeah, it was released in 2017. And I remember watching it with my family. Like I turned it on. I was like, "Oh, they have all these Marvel shows.
Hmm.
Iron Fist is out." And I started watching it with them. And I said, "I'm going to bed." And my family said, "Do you want us to stop and like continue with you tomorrow?" And I said, "No, thank you." And I just went to
I
bed.
have to leave.
I
Unfortunately, I'm going to excuse myself from this show.
I refuse to watch that. He was the worst. And so he's in the
Hmm.
Defenders and he's like the person they all have to save. And he's just walking
Oh.
around going, but I'm the Iron Fist. I'm important. And it's like, why?
Ugh.
And so now they haven't brought up the Iron Fist in any of these Marvel endeavors afterwards. Because I think they all know. Like they all know it's not good. It's not okay.
Well, that makes it difficult for me to go into the argument I was going to have here, which was that I've learned upon this Marvel journey because I went into this having absolutely no biases. Like I was never like a fan of these things when they came out in
Mhm.
2008 or whenever it was. So starting them in 2020, it was a lot easier to just go in and be critical of them. I will die on the hill. You know how there's like small hills that you'll die on for
Yeah.
no reason. And I've definitely already started Reddit arguments over this. But because when I was sick with COVID, I was watching so much Marvel
Right.
and I was just like, you know what? I'm going on Reddit to talk about this. And they delivered. But the hill I will die on is that the early Marvel stuff is just not good. I
Yeah.
I I even brought this up to somebody on Instagram the other day. They said something about like they don't like any of the new Marvel stuff. None of the Marvel stuff that's come out recently has been good. I instantly DM'd them and was like, here's the thing. I've come at this from a very different angle than most people, and when you have no nostalgia going into this, the early Marvel stuff is terrible. And so I said Iron Man, The Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2, Thor too, and I listed a bunch of them, and I was like, they're just awful. And once I started listing some of my reasons why, this person was like, actually, you're right. I totally forgot about all of those things and
Mhm.
those specific movies, and they are bad. I felt validated, but I think that people forget that, the Incredible Hulk with what's his name before it was Mark Ruffalo, Ed Norton. He
Yeah.
was not great. That movie was awful. It was
I don't think I ever
terrible.
saw the Edward Norton. I
Oh, don't
saw,
watch it, Hannah. Don't
oh, I
waste your
would
time.
never. I would never. I watched another one and it was also bad. Like I remember it was really bad and it like it was terrible.
I'm at the
I will
point
say
now
that
where
I've
I'm
heard
considering myself a scholar because I'm trying to assess every single Marvel thing that comes on to Disney Plus, and that's why I'm going for all of these things that I probably wouldn't have watched. Like I've watched all the Groot shorts. I'm watching it all.
I
And
skipped those.
that's why
I'm
when they
okay.
added all these Daredevil and Jessica Jones and all this, I was like, I was so close. I was
Okay.
so close. But
I do feel like I want to go back to those earlier Netflix ones because they were a little bit darker, except for Iron Fist. That man could go fuck himself. But like
so
everything else, I'm
honestly,
like actually interested in rewatching because I
I'm
do
kind of
think that like
interested in Daredevil. Like he was in
Daredevil, super good.
She-Hulk and could be a ton of fun. So,
Jessica Jones, they've gone on the record saying like I've heard really good things about Luke Cage too. I haven't watched Luke Cage. I had gotten like fatigued by that
mhm.
point. But I will say like I've heard great things about Luke Cage, interesting storylines. Jessica Jones has one of the most like messed up season ones ever because of the big bad in it. Like
Ooh.
do you want me to do you want spoilers at all?
You know
Or
what?
like
Don't give me any spoilers because I want
okay,
to
I will just
experience
say
this.
it's so good that I will like rewatch it with you. Like tell me when you're
Mm,
watching it and I will actually
okay.
rewatch that because it's a difficult watch, but it's
TV
just that good.
Tuesday?
TV Tuesday, let's do some Jessica Jones. Let's skip over everything Marvel until we hit Jessica Jones. And it's like, you know what? I really want to do a deep dive on Kristen Ritter. Like that sounds like a good time, actually.
Okay.
um, she's a fun girl. So
But
yeah.
all of this to say that if anyone thinks that Iron Man 2 is better than Shang-Chi, they're an absolute liar. Absolute liar.
Or racist.
Yes. Like
Yeah.
you had your eyes closed the entire you were asleep.
Yeah.
Apparently you didn't watch the movies because there's no way anyone can ever make the argument that the earlier stuff was better. And that is why I will continue to die on that hill. Shang-Chi was my favorite so far of all of these movies. It was excellent. What a great movie. Like I was so zoned in on that movie that I was just like I did not look at my phone at all. I was like completely staring at the TV. Like it was great. I loved it. And yeah, people were sleeping through that movie if they still think that Iron Man 2 was better. Like, come on. Iron Man 2 had bald Jeff Bridges, who was clearly the villain. So clearly the villain. It was terrible. Don't argue with me about this, people. Early Marvel is bad. Also, Ms. Marvel, I loved
So
it.
good. Wasn't it the most adorable thing you've ever
I loved
seen?
it.
Wasn't it
So
amazing?
for these people that are saying, well, I liked all the earlier Marvel stuff. You know what?
Watch Miss Marvel again
Turn
because you're
that
wrong.
show back on. You are wrong. Like even
So good.
some of the shows that I think have been a little bit weaker. Like I'd like to do more deep dives, like do TV Tuesdays on some of these shows because I think there's a lot to be talked about. But even some of the shows that I think were a little bit weaker, like I think Loki was maybe one of the weaker shows.
Yeah.
It still had a lot of really good moments and a lot of like unique creative things that happened within it that I still think it was far superior to a lot of the early Marvel content. I think that they're doing a really good job in terms of diversity and trying to explore storylines that need to be explored within this whole MCU. So
Yeah.
I that's the hill I will die on. I yeah, Shang-Chi was amazing. And
Shang-Chi
I
was amazing. You named yourself Sean. You tried to change your name and you chose Sean and you thought your dad didn't know where you were.
amazing. Amazing. Also, Shang-Chi's dad. Whew, I
Oh,
have a new celebrity crush. He is good looking and I was interested. But
it's interesting.
um
Look out,
Wakanda
Laura's
Forever was
husband.
also amazing.
Yes.
Like what a here's the thing with all these newer movies that I've watched, the villains are so morally gray and they
Yes.
have actual motivations in a way that the bald men of Iron Man did not have.
You mean like the post 9/11 group of people who were just like
Yeah,
America weren't
yeah.
like that in depth with like they're
Jeff
kind of out
Bridges
of
is like,
touch.
I need to sell more guns and I'm starting my own gun company with
That was a
Tony Stark's stuff.
that
Like,
was a
okay.
perfect Jeff Bridges
Well, you know what? Jeff Bridges is annoying
cameo.
in that
So
movie.
no, I really
I don't care.
appreciate I actually think you did a very good Jeff Bridges and I give you 10 points for that. Good job. Like
Thank
that was
you.
excellent.
You know what? I actually like Jeff Bridges, just hated him in that movie. Absolutely hated
I
him in that movie.
often think that Jeff Bridges and the guy who's married to Goldie Hawn are the same person. I could
Kurt
not.
Russell, I do the
Kurt
same
Russell.
thing.
And
I
they're
do the
both in the
same
Marvel
thing.
universe, so I'm always
Yes,
like, which
because
one was
they're always
which?
about fathers and sons, and Guardians of the Galaxy. It was, of course, about playing catch in space with some stupid little Powerball thing. Like,
With
ah,
Jeff Bridges, no, the other one. Like,
oh, well,
sorry.
and the other thing too, then when we get into what was because Kurt Russell's son is
Yeah,
in Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
right. Wyatt Russell. Wyatt
Wyatt Russell,
Russell.
thank you.
Because you can't have Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn without naming their son Wyatt Russell, because
Weird.
of course that man became an actor. Like, what else was he gonna do?
Yeah.
I
I
have to go
mean,
see my
he
account
wasn't that
Wyatt
wonderful, but
Russell.
I think he was perfect for that role, honestly, because it was like, you know who we should get for this role? A Nepo baby.
A Nepo
That's
baby
perfect
to play like
to play America's Nepo baby. Like,
yeah, exactly.
who do we need to be the next Captain America? I know, a blonde white man who's gonna get angry about everything. Good
And think
job, Kevin
that
Feige.
he deserves the right because he is a good soldier.
Yeah. Yeah. That show even has a lot of good talking points. But
Oh, I
yes,
loved Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
yeah, it was good. I'll do
Yeah.
more deep dives on these as we go on. And I
We'll
I
do
have
more
so
TV
much to
Tuesdays
say. Yeah,
because
we'll do
like
more
those were
TV
all TV
Tuesdays,
Tuesdays.
but I'm getting close to being caught up with a lot of stuff. I watched a couple of the second season of What If, but
Oh, I
haven't
haven't
watched
seen
the whole
season 2 of
thing.
What If. I've only seen season 1 of What If. Um,
Season one was fun, actually. I kind of liked it.
I really liked What If. Currently on Secret Invasion, and when I tell you that I put that show on and I just zone out, and
Mm.
40 minutes later I say, that was a show I watched, sort of. Um,
I've heard that one is not great, which is
it's
disappointing because I love Nick Fury.
yeah, it's not good. It doesn't always make sense. It's wild.
It doesn't always make sense. Oh no.
Well,
Uh,
there are moments where I'm like, what is happening? And then I'm like, oh yes, this is where they started admitting that they do not use showrunners. Like they're not like, hey,
hmm.
the overarching theme of this is this. They're like, what if we just had a bunch of episodes that ended with a Marvel movie? And it's like, don't do that.
No.
Do something different, please.
Did
Um,
Nick Fury like break the fourth wall like they did in She-Hulk?
no, but She-Hulk that actually, if you I fall down a lot of deep rabbit holes, and She-Hulk that's actually like very a big mainstay for the comic. Like she broke the fourth wall, so
Hmm.
it's actually like showing homage to the comic. So at least they
Honestly,
knew what they were
I
talking
loved it.
about.
I loved it.
Okay,
And I was specifically thinking of the last episode, spoilers, for the last episode of She-Hulk, which has been out for a while, so it's your fault for not watching
I
it.
really liked She-Hulk. I thought it was good.
She-Hulk was fun, but the last episode, when things started happening the way they did, I even said out loud, "This doesn't even make sense." And then
She's like, "Are
literally,
you
it
kidding me?"
starts going that way, and Jen's like, "I have to talk to someone at Marvel because this doesn't make sense." I felt so validated where she was like, "None of you know what you're talking about. Like, what? No, don't.
What's
No,
going
this
on?
can't happen."
Right. No,
Wonderful.
it was great. I actually really liked She-Hulk, but I have no
Yeah, it
idea
was
where
fun.
Secret Invasion is going because it makes very little
Mm,
sense, and I'm not that interested.
mm. I also
Yeah,
watched
it's just
Echo,
yeah.
which
Oh, I
was
haven't
good.
watched Echo. I've wanted to. I forgot that it was out, honestly. And then I saw like, hey, go watch Echo, and I'm like, oh, I should do that. But
Yeah, my husband and I watched that, and he really enjoyed that one,
well,
which
that's
I'm not
good.
surprised because that one kind of seems like up his alley, the whole like gang-ish type thing. He's maybe more into that type of thing. So I think maybe he'll like Daredevil if
That's
that
fair.
one's a good one. So,
Daredevil is really good. I really like Daredevil.
okay, Hannah, I'm done. What have you been reading and
Gosh,
watching?
I feel like we've talked for hours.
Oh,
Um,
I actually have nearly.
she's trying to make it so I don't have to talk into my speaker, but we still have to go over an entire
We
series.
have a lot of
Uh,
plot.
so I am still like in my era of just trying to read and then not being quite able to. But I'm reading a lot of different books. I'm just not finishing any of them. So last year in December, I read Daughter of Flood and Fury by Levi Jacobs.
Oh, yay.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this book. It was a ton of fun. Great world building. So we follow Alethea, who is a girl who was raised in a like monastery where her dad was the leader and he recently died, and she thinks that there was something most foul about the way he died. In this monastery, you are it's typically men have this like water site that they're able to use. So they're able to use
Hmm.
water to like read people's minds pretty much, see what they're going to do, train to be fighters or to be like, part of this society. And she is incredibly powerful, which goes against their religion because women should not have this power. And when she starts doing a deep dive into everything, into why her father was murdered, she is chased out of the monastery and has to go into hiding into the area. And I just thought this was like a very interesting book. I thought it did so well at like weaving in a different type of power because water is everywhere and seeing how
Sure.
like how much you have to be on your guard at all times, how much you have to like watch what you're doing, and just like the way Jacobs was able to weave in this power was super interesting. Um, I thought it was also very interesting because like the male type of power is based on water and kind of like using it to fight. And I will say I don't know how I feel about it all the time, but I thought it was interesting. The like women's power is all done through blood and they're more able to
Mm.
control, and it's more like visceral and like controlling the mind and controlling the person.
Because
Uh
periods.
because periods,
That is instantly what I thought when I said it's my plot, and I was like, because periods,
because
because
periods.
women control the world with their periods.
I hope so. They have to be good for something, Laura. Uh,
They're not.
they're not. Uh, and so I just thought this was like a very clever look at the world. I thought Jacobs did a really good job. It was just a fun, like quick read. That's very action packed and easy to follow ways. As you know, I'm terrible at following action plots, as we're about to see in this book,
Did you
where
do an
like
audiobook or?
I did it via Kindle. So
Oh,
I
okay.
think I got it for free off of Amazon, and was
Nice.
able to read it. So it was tons of fun. I had a good time, and it was like one of my 12 for 12 recommendations. So
Yeah.
I enjoyed it very much. I thought it was a lot of fun. I will say that like Alethea sometimes gives like not like the other girls, but also like bisexual energy, and so love both those things.
Sure.
And it was a ton of fun, and I liked it. So highly recommend to people who are looking for like a action-packed quick read. So I enjoyed
Yeah.
that. And then this weekend it was my partner's birthday. Happy birthday to him. And we did a movie marathon. So we each like got to pick a movie. Um, so my first movie was one of my all-time favorites, My Best Friend's Wedding. He had never seen it
Oh,
before, and watching
singing
someone
that I pray for
for you
you
forever
forever and ever.
and
I
ever.
love that
I pray
movie.
in my heart and I will love you. Watching his progression between like, ooh, marry Julia Roberts. No, Julia Roberts, what are you doing? No, Julia Roberts. Are you going to tell them? Julia Roberts, if those two do not end up together, I don't know what to do. Like it was fun watching someone who had never seen this movie and had like no idea going into it what was going to happen. Tons of fun. And then he was like, "Oh, we should watch Return to Me." And I go, "Is that the one with the baboon heart, which you and I have talked about?
Oh
There's a movie
gosh.
where someone was told that they have a baboon heart." And he goes,
Yes.
"Yeah, it is. So you have seen it." I go, "No, I just know a lot about it because it's a really weird movie where a guy thinks he has a baboon heart." And he goes, "No, not that movie." And I go, "What other movie with a
There's
baboon
another
heart?"
movie with a baboon heart.
And he goes, "Well, we're going to have to watch it and you're going to see where I get confused." So Return to Me is about the guy from X-Files with the sex addiction. What's his name? I don't remember. But his wife dies at the beginning, and Minnie Driver gets her heart from a heart transplant. But his wife was a zoologist who hung out with baboons. And so he was like, "You see where I got the confusion?" And I was like, it's the whole like
So
if
does
I
she get a baboon heart?
she doesn't get a baboon heart, but it has baboons and hearts in it. So when I said
Okay.
baboon heart, he just assumed
He
two
mixed those
separate
two
things.
things.
And
Okay.
I meant a movie where both
That
those things
exact
were in
thing.
one. And at one point, there were nuns that go by Minnie Driver, and he goes, "Look, there are even nuns in this one too." And so it was just a very funny thing where we were like, "What was up with the '90s and monkeys and heart transplants?" Because weird energy,
And
just
nuns.
like, and one was like Christian Slater, and one was the guy from X-Files, and it was just like very confusing. But also, it took place in Chicago, so I was like, where in Chicago was this zoo? Because the Lincoln Zoo Park Zoo does not look like this. It was very odd. Um,
Interesting.
but we watched it, and he said, "This is a movie my family watches a lot." And I said, "Your family has the energy of really liking okay movies." Like the movies we watch are never bad. Like sometimes my movies are usually like very good or very bad. There's very little in between. But
Sure.
his movies are always like the okayest of movies. Like I've seen Leap Year, and he's like, "This is my family's favorite movie." And I'm
Oh,
like,
really?
it's just Leap Year. Like it's fine. It's not
Hmm.
bad. It's just Leap Year. Um, so then I had him watch Anastasia because he had never seen Anastasia.
I love
I
Anastasia.
know it's so good. And then he made me watch The Adventures of Tintin, and that
I've never
person
seen that.
is it's very long. And it is Tintin is a menace who destroys cities. So he just kept destroying cities. And I was like, sir, this man is destroying everything. He shouldn't be allowed to be a news reporter. Like he's just
Hmm.
destroying everything. It was directed by Steven Spielberg, and it's that like mix of animation with like stop cap motion or
Yeah.
whatever it is. And so everything looks like a little bit too real, but also very fake. And you could tell Steven Spielberg was just like, I can make so many destruction scenes. I'm like, yes, but you're just Tintin
But
is just
why?
destroying a city in Africa. And like, haven't the British done enough? Like, what's going on?
You could do that, but
You
why would you?
you could just not want to find the treasure at this point. Like, the treasure will not cover the destruction you have caused. So that was a very funny movie to watch. And Tintin is very bad at his job. Like I kept just being like, this man is bad at his job, Paul. Like it's not okay. He's
That's
destroying
funny.
everything.
And
So
that's like
the
one of his family's favorite movies.
no, Tintin was one of his favorite movies.
Okay.
The Baboon Heart. Well, no, Baboon dot Heart, not Baboon Heart.
Baboon
Baboon
and
and
Hearts.
Heart. Baboon and Hearts. Independence
That
Day.
is a favorite movie.
That is a favorite. Like they watch it when they're at their family cabin. So we
Okay.
watched some fun random movie. Like I brought him my best friend's wedding in Anastasia, and
Yeah.
he brought me British colonizer destroying cities and
Yeah.
baboons and hearts.
You know, he's really got to step it up. I'm just saying, but Hannah, I am biased because the movies you chose are some
Also, some
really,
favorites
really
of
good
yours.
ones. And like there's some favorites of mine.
Well, and then I
So
was like, "Have you seen Swan Princess?" And he was like, "Of course." And I was like,
oh,
"That's not an of course statement, but also I love Swan Princess, so I
yeah,
would have made him watch it." So we,
of course I've seen Swan Princess. Are you kidding me?
what is the we are a band and not a band of animals.
There's
We
like
lost
those weird animation movies that you like remember and you don't think other people watch them, but then there's like a weird cult following for them. And
everyone
Swan
watched
Princess
Squid
is one of them.
Princess.
Yeah.
You lost your queen, Derek. That's twice in one day. It's just so funny. Uh, So, all right. Well, those are what I read, watched, and or enjoyed. And should we dive into another thing that we enjoyed? Because this book was
Yes.
fantastic, even if
This book was a ride, but this book is so great.
look,
It, oh, love it.
this this book was a wild ride because it's very similar to Six Flags, where you are waiting in line for a lot, and it all happens within the last three chapters.
Yeah. You wait in line for hours and then everything happens in 2 minutes.
So
Literally.
we left Bree after Cell had just screamed at her for being the problem when she's
And
obviously
revealed that
not.
he'd been spying on her therapy,
Oh gosh, I forgot about that until you just mentioned it, but it is upsetting.
which
Uh
it's just funny to me to just picture him like creeping over there. What?
She likes Nick too much. No, he's just listening, being like, this woman is a bad therapist.
He's,
Like she
I know
should get a new therapist.
he's listening and he's like, she's not saying anything of note here. She's such an idiot.
Just
I'm like, what?
also like very soon in this like couple chapters, he's like, oh, I can't believe I thought you were pretty much like a dark friend. And it's like, sir, calm down. Like you're so
Well, isn't it like not Bloodsworn,
Shadowborn.
Shadowborn. That's
He's
it.
like, I can't believe I thought you were Shadowborn. And I was like, you aggressively thought this, so it is your fault, sir. I don't know what else to tell you. Um,
It's one of those things like, do you need to say it out loud many times? Because you are, and it's just like we get it. You can't believe it.
you can't
Believe
believe it. Now that you're her friend, you're like aggressively on the other side of things and you're still
Yeah.
kind of insufferable. So he's
Yeah.
like just finished blaming her for everything. So she's like, it is all my fault. And it's like, Bree, take five
No, it's
steps
not, Brie.
back and look at the situation. Because trust me, it's not you. Um, and so then she goes and she falls asleep in Nick's bed. Then she realizes if Cell is replaced, they will remove his marble from Nick's like family lineage wall thing that she
Mhm.
saw earlier. And then she thinks of the scratch mark she saw by Nick's dad's Merlin, and she has a realization that Nick's dad's original Merlin was replaced. And so it has been done before very,
Mhm.
very recently, which also, how did Cell not know that?
Which, yeah, red flag there. Like, Also, like nobody questioned like the
A giant
scratching
scratch mark?
out. Like, like,
No
whoops.
questions.
I think it's always been like that. Like, it just looked a little bit worn.
Look, Isaac got really drunk and he just got really bad one night. He was like, what if I wasn't your Merlin? And then just like
Here's
left
the
the
thing.
room
Tor and Sal and Sarah and Russ,
there
we
and
all went
left.
out and were at the quarry. And when we came back, all of these things were scratched up.
It was really weird. We all had an alibi. It was not
Nick was
us.
not living here.
And so she goes and she tells Sil everything. And like
Yeah.
everything. She's like, hey, we think my mom was murdered. And it's
Which
like,
is why I said last time, Brie will have these internal monologues where she's like,
I can't tell anyone
I
anything.
can't tell anyone about this stuff. And then she immediately goes and tells the person that she said she wasn't going to tell about it
My favorite part is
everything.
at one point in her inner monologue, she's like, I'm just gonna go tell Nick everything. I'm even gonna go tell him about Patricia. And it's like, ma'am, why? You
And
didn't
then
need
she'll
to think
she'll do the same
that.
thing with Patricia though, where she'll say,
Yeah.
"I'm not going to tell Patricia anything about the
But
order,
here's again,
but
I feel
Patricia hears everything about the order."
I blame Patricia for that. I still blame her for hearing her say
It's
ether and not
very
being like,
hard on
hey, she's part of the secret society. Like, here's the thing, the secret society, it's like on the record, the secret society does not know about root crafters. They're pretty secretive, they keep to themselves. It seems like the root crafters know very much about the secret society.
Yeah.
And so I blame Patricia for hearing reuse all these terms of the colonizers and being like, maybe she's hanging out with the colonizers. And Patricia's like, you're
And
what?
getting mad at her too to be like, "We don't say that." Like,
Just
okay, well, inform her.
inform her. Have a conversation, Patricia. I blame you for this. I'm sorry. Um,
Oh,
but anyway, she goes and she tells Tell everything while he's in a towel because it's Twilight. Um,
because we have to know about the V.
and then she talks to him and she's like, hey, like a Merlin could have opened the gate 25 years ago. And I think that's what happened. It was probably Davis's Merlin. And so he's like, we're going to go investigate the Davis's house because I know they have old records there because I smelled them there once. I'm pretty sure that's what he says. And I'm like,
I
okay,
think it
cool.
is what he says about
Yeah.
smelling.
Well, she smells his magic all the time. So he's
Yeah.
allowed to smell some old books.
Yeah, because she
Um,
says at one point, or we're not there yet, but
no,
she tells him basically, "Your magic smells better than your soap that you
no,
use."
like whiskey and cinnamon. She has to ride on Cell's back like it's Twilight. They literally make a Twilight
Yeah.
joke to get their fast words faster. And she does hate breaking into Nick's house because it's a violation of its privacy.
Which
She
I was confused why she was so bothered by this, and I don't know. It seemed weird that she was so uncomfortable with it, but then
he's like,
Cell
you
like points
literally
it out. He's like,
sleep
"Come on, we
in
don't have
Nick's
time to."
bed.
Yeah, he's like, "We don't have time to dawdle here while you're oohing and eyeing over your boyfriend's childhood bedroom. Like,
I know, it's
get
very
moving."
strange. Um, She admits when they're in the house that she feels electricity when Sal touches her and that she can sense when he's staring at her. And this makes him think. Sal admits that Nick treated his father's love like a zero-sum game when they were growing up, kind of like, hey, he's my dad, not yours,
Hmm.
kind of thing. And Sal was like, look, Davis was always really generous with me. He was really great. I loved them. And also, I had a big old crush on Nick when we were like
Yeah.
in early teens. And she's like, are you still in love with him? And he's like, no, I don't like him anymore. I
And he's
grew
like,
up.
no.
No,
And
he's
those
just a
feelings were never
man.
reciprocated, and we're not compatible. Like, look at him. No, no, we're not.
Here's the thing. If Nick doesn't scream anything but hetero, I don't know what you're doing,
Yep.
Free. Like, so totally get it. No,
I get
Nick
like
is a
Andy Dwyer
heterosexual
vibes.
man. Yeah, he's just a flesh colored or flesh hair colored man
Hmm.
who definitely only dates women. Um, and he's like, it's over now. They find some old files, they get them back to the lodge, and there is a debrief about the gate opening 25 years ago and how bad it was. It discussed that like a bunch of ones born saw it happen. They all had to have their memories wiped. And they kind of had to have those memories like replaced at that point because it was pretty traumatic and they had to like be
Hmm.
watched for a long time. And they discovered that it was Sal's mother, Natasha Kay, who opened the gates. And that she had gone to the dark side. And they're like, well, we have to put her into an insane asylum because people be putting women into insane asylums, pretty much like
Because
locking
like
her
Agatha
away.
Christie was involved in this somehow.
And they kind of talk about like, well, in case she could potentially, she's very strong, so if she could breed, we would want her to be able to breed, which is a
Which
lot
is
of like
sickening, honestly. Like,
sickening and
ugh.
disgusting connotations because like guess what? She's not like going out and meeting someone she would like actively want to have a sexual relationship with.
No,
She's
they're
locked away.
choosing
Like
someone like, oh, this is
she's
animal
literally being
husbandry. Oh.
yeah, like bred like cattle. And so there's like a check-in later saying she's kind of going back to the light, so they let her have a baby, and then things like start going downhill again, so they take her away, and Sal will be raised close to Nick to like keep him quote unquote towards
Hmm.
the good. Um, this is
Well,
pretty
and
big
to kind of
news.
like form a connection between the two of them too.
Yeah. And this is pretty big news because it means like Sal's mom is not only absent, but she became paranoid just like him. He immediately, like, honestly, I was really grossed out immediately about the like, well, she wants to breed. And he does
Hmm.
have a moment where he's like, they want to breed her. Like, he has that visceral reaction. But then he immediately goes to like, well, she was evil and they had to do what they had to do. And it's like, Sal, what are you talking about? Like,
Here's the thing though,
have
I
more
wasn't
questions.
as bothered by his reaction to it because it made sense to me that he would
I
feel that way
know.
because he's just been brought up in this
Indoctrinated.
Davis household where he's been fed all of these
I know.
stories and things about his up or about his life and about his parents and about himself that he just kind of accepts the fact that he could be a monster and that his
Right.
mother is probably a monster and should definitely be treated as less than human.
Ugh. But he hands off the witness statements about like all the different witnesses, and Bree finds out that her mom did witness everything. They kept an eye on her, but she never looked like she remembered anything. And then she died by a hit and run. Bree is pretty floored by this because it means that her mom died for nothing. It wasn't some secretive plot. It was
Hmm.
just happenstance, which is like pretty gut wrenching for her.
Yeah.
Sal's kind of like, hey, she could have been pretending. She could have remembered just like you. And she's like, yeah, but all that means is my mom did the smart thing and like hid herself. And I ran directly into this when she was trying to protect me. She leaves upset with Nick or with Sal running after her and she runs directly into Nick. Nick immediately is like, Sal, what did you do to her? I didn't do anything. I'm just trying to help. And blah, blah, blah. And she like admits to Nick that there was no big force against anything against her mother. Her mother died by as an accident. And also she's like, she's being so bad at being like, I can't say anything because there's a group of people, but I also want this conversation to be over right now. So I'm going to pretty much tell you everything, except not. It was very confusing, but she also says she can't be a part of the competition anymore. Nick wants her by his side, and she's like, nope, I can't. And we get to part 4. Um, Bree becomes a shell of herself because it's been a week, and
Hmm.
she lost the love of her life. She also
Which
gets this.
here's the this is the only part of the writing in this book that I'm just like I'm not feeling it here because this was a really good opportunity to make it very much about like the news of her mother, and it
Mhm.
kind of becomes more of a I'm really
I
upset
miss
about
Nick.
Nick thing,
Yeah.
and it's like they don't know each other that long. I get it, it's YA, but this was a perfect opportunity to just be like, this is very much about the loss of my mother and the things that I'm learning and things that I'm figuring out that were not the way that I thought they were going to play out, which it
Uh,
does happen too.
Hi,
But
alcoholism wasn't about grief. It was about loving the alcohol more than my mother.
yes, of
Um,
course.
yes, of course, exactly. So she gets a C minus on a quiz, and Alice is like, "Dude, you do not get C minuses on quiz." Which, as a straight A student, I definitely got a D on a college quiz at one point.
Oh yeah.
She yells at her for not going to the chosen one dance. And that Friday her dad like calls her and he's like, "Hey, I'm here to see you. I've been concerned. We're going out for breakfast. Like Alice, let me know something's going on." And he talks about how her mother like was affected by the trauma in her life and how that like seeped into their lives and like she was way too overprotective. She like seemed to be paranoid that she was going to die just like the women who came before her because like the women in Bree's mother's line don't live very long,
Mhm.
foreshadowing, things like that. And so she acted like she was going to like not have the relationship with Bree for a long time either. And he also said that her mother's fear was likely why she was so scared when Bree got into early college, but the fight wasn't her fault, and neither was the accident. He gives her her mother's pocket Bible with like a little notation about how she's scared for Bree and she's running out of time. And he also gives her a bracelet with Bree's name and her father's name on it that her mom wore like constantly. Um, and he tells her he wants to live her life. She gets to her room later that day. She opens the bracelet. She starts grieving her mother, which was a very sad section. And then she touches it, and a memory overtakes her. Like ether comes out, and she has a memory where her mother's like at a carnival with Bree, and there's a person like talking behind Bree, and the mom's like, "Don't look at them. Look only at me." Um, because secrets.
This is a really cool thing actually because it's like this whole thing was like recorded and stored
Yeah,
in this.
in the
And
memory of the bracelet.
yeah,
Um, except during this time, I was like, well, that's Sel's mom's behind her.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
Small spoiler. It's coming,
I
guys.
mean, it is.
It's coming. But so she tells her about Rootcraft and the family. She says that she may need to fight, but that none of them get very long and like with their moms, and Rootcraft will be a curse to her. She's also talking to someone in the background who Brie can't see, like I said, but her mom takes care to like not have her see them. She tells her daughter to move forward. Brie comes to and she knows what she needs to do. So she calls the best therapist in the world, Patricia, and
Patricia,
Mariah, and she asked them to come, like, and she asked about the memory that was instilled in the bracelet. She says she needs to speak to her ancestors, someone who can give her answers. And they both assist her, and they're kind of like, you get who you call. Like, there's no
they're
guarantee.
like, we can't just pick and choose who we want. So
No.
maybe it'll be your mom, maybe not.
And so it is Bree's grandmother. And she's like, it took you long enough. And so Mariah's like,
I
hey,
dig
your
it.
grandma's in there. Like, you're a medium girl. You can like have access to the dead. You're stronger than most. Like, this is really weird. I've never seen something like this happen. Because Bree's not like the other mediums. The grandma agrees to help her find someone in the family with answers, but it'll take some time. The next, and so like the rest of the book is just her walking around with her grandma in her head, sometimes be like, "Don't cuss. How do you know what it's like to be drunk? You're
Which
16."
was very much like
Going.
reminiscent of like other fantasy stories we've read where there's been some kind of like, like person inside of them. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like talking in their head. It reminded me very much of like a Luz Theron type thing.
Oh yeah, loose, Theron. Um,
Yes.
so the next day, Bree decides that she misses Nick, and she wants to move forward. Alice and Charlotte help her get dressed up for the ball, and she goes to the ball looking amazing. And then she feels Sel's eyes on her all the time. So Nick starts dancing with her, and he's glad she's there. And then Davis's Kingsmaid shows up, Isaac, and he is very chilling, very scary. And he's like, "Your dad needs to speak with you." Bree goes, "Who is that?" Her grandmother goes, "No one good, or someone bad." I enjoyed that. Sel comes up and he also dances with Bree. She asks if ether can be tied to an object for months and years, and he says it should be impossible. She says that she's going to continue looking into things, and he asks if she needs help, especially since he's going to be out of the job maybe soon. And she admits to knowing what his magic smells like. That's the scene where
That's
she's like,
the yeah, I was gonna say
yeah.
that's the part where she's like, your magic smells better than your soap. It's like, okay, weird.
There's just certain lines that have like picture
Things you don't
stuff
say out
coming
loud.
out. Yeah, that's an inside thought for you. Um, Ceremony begins. Peter chooses Greer. Yay, Greer. William chooses Whitty, and then Nick picks Bree. And she says yes, and the whole world descends into racism. People like
Bad.
start screaming at her. They start calling her gold digger. She's a charity case. Vaughn's mother is screaming that Bree stole this role from her son.
Which up
Someone
until this point, I feel like the racism has not been violent. This is the point where it's like
It got
this is
violent.
it gets violent and it's dangerous.
Yeah, because people start like coming after her. Someone says something and she goes to stand up for herself, and Cell has to like literally pull her out of the situation because
Hmm.
he's like, nope, we're not doing this. Um, which also like this is one of those things where like Nick's bad parts are coming out where it's like, how did he
Yes.
not see that he was putting her in a dangerous situation? You need to know how to read the room. You cannot rely on your own privilege for this kind of shit.
Hmm.
What the fuck is wrong with you, kind of thing. Um, so Cell like gets her into like a safe area, and Nick comes in and he hugs her, and again he's like not sensing how bad that was, and he's
Yeah.
just like, I'm so glad you're here for me. I'm so happy you said yes. It's very like
It's
rose-colored
bizarre,
glasses.
honestly,
Yeah,
because it's literally like he didn't see that whole thing happen,
I know. It
is
was
what
so
it seemed like.
strange. And like, or like, it's always from his perspective, it feels like, where
Yes.
he's like, "Oh, of course there was uproar. I'm just one of the good ones. They'll come along." And it's like, no, Nick, you put your girlfriend in a dangerous position. Like that's
And
what
the way
happened.
that this is written is expert because
Hmm.
this is something that I think probably happens all the time
Hmm.
to people of color where you have other people, and not other people, you have white people who are just
Yeah.
completely oblivious and then turning it around and making it about them.
You
And
and I read this in that friendship book I got you, where like it is a
yep,
black woman and a white woman. They are friends. It's a based on
big
real life
friendship.
events,
Mhm.
big friendship. And the black woman goes to a party and there are only white people there. And later on, she was like, how dare you treat me like that? You should have known. You should protect me. You are my friend.
Mhm.
And she's like, yeah, I messed up. I'm sorry. Like, and she's like, yeah, you made me feel unsafe. And it's like, that's people
Yep.
don't see that, and obviously I am probably guilty of that in many like facets, but like,
Oh yeah.
dude, read the freaking room, Nick. Like what you did was
Yeah.
not okay. uh Sorry.
No,
But
you're absolutely right.
his father's King's Mage comes in. They're like, your father needs you immediately. He leaves, and then Isaac knocks Bree out. And then we have this breakneck speed plot where it's like, what is happening?
This
Um,
went fast.
this went so fast. So she comes to in Davis's office, and Davis is like, hey, look, I'm going to tell you everything that's been going on really, really quickly because my son should have never picked you. And all of Davis's racism and horrifyingness comes out. He admits that he's literally the bad guy. He won't let her become Nick's squire, that he's been opening the gates because he wants to force Camlin coming out, that the vassals have gotten too much power in all of this
Mhm.
time, and he thinks that it's time to put power back into the circle, that he felt he should be the one who would like raise the torch, so he tried to open it up 25 years ago. Um, but if he can't do it, his son will be the next best thing because he can control his son.
And
And
the
that
weird
she,
way that he's like so angry that he didn't get to have the power of King Arthur
yeah.
is creepy.
It's
And
very creepy and very obsessive and very much
yeah.
like I'm the deserving one here. And it just like shows a lot of
Hmm.
privilege and how it morphs people's minds. And even like in the
And
next couple
power.
sections, they say like he shouldn't be able to break his oaths. And they're like, well, oaths can be corrupted because you can
Hmm.
convince yourself that you're working to the best inherent ability of the circle and
Yep.
like the round table
If you
and
think you're
still
doing the
do
right
all these
thing,
things.
then
Yeah.
maybe you are keeping your
Right.
oath.
And so she pretty much is like, you will not get away with this. And he says, like, I know you can't be mesmered, but I can have control over you. And he brings in Alice and says pretty much that he will ruin her life. He will take everything away from her. He has Isaac take away like 2 weeks from her life so she won't remember what's gone on for the past 2 weeks. Which like in my mind, I was like, how does that work? She's gonna wake up and be like, 2 weeks have passed and I have no memory of it, which is my horror like
Hmm.
dreams. I have those dreams. But like I was very confused as to how that would work. Like, would they think she had amnesia? It wasn't quite clear the
I took
stakes,
it as
but
more of like Bree was removed from Alice's memories of the past
okay,
two
is that
weeks.
what it was? Okay.
That's what I thought it was. I didn't think it was everything. I thought it was just Bree's
Because in it was like
part
she
of
lost
her.
classes, she lost test taking, she lost studying. And I was like, what? Like what?
Oh, I guess I
Okay.
didn't know that.
Yeah, like she lists off things that she's forgetting, and those are part of it. I was just like, I don't really understand the state.
I
Like,
thought
I
it was just
understand
the
the
things
stakes.
related to Bree.
No, I understood
Mm,
the stakes from like this is very dramatic to like lose 2 weeks of your life. That's horrifying. But I was like, how do they get away with just acting like that? Like that's pretty out of pocket to do even for a
right.
secret society. It just if it didn't quite make sense, but it's okay because
And it makes me
things
question
turned
like
out.
all the other people that were mesmered 25 years ago, like how did they explain away like them just,
Yeah,
not understanding anything that was going on in their studies?
sometimes it felt like the setup didn't have a full follow through, but because there
Sure.
were a couple times when I was reading this where I was like, wait, what? But it was still very good. But he says that like he's like, okay, I will not harm Alice if you drop off the face of the earth, drop out of early college, never come back to this institution, and forget all about this. And she agrees to those terms because she doesn't want to hurt Alice. She takes Alice back to their room and she asks her grandmother for help for like bringing back a healer. And the grandmother gets one of their ancestors, Jesse. They heal Alice. She remembers being taken. She remembers everything. She gets it all back. And Bree tells her everything else that's been going on.
Yeah, she's
She
like, I really shouldn't tell Alice anything about this to protect her.
Here is
But
everything.
Alice hears everything. Now you're in danger.
And Alice is like, I'm in. Let's go. Let's go storm the castle. And she
She's like,
says
wish you would have told me about this sooner.
I wouldn't have told you to drop out of school. She says that Davis will want to bring Camlin, that Nick is in danger, and they need to go fight. She goes back to the lodge. Literally, no one thought that Bria just dropped out. They're like, Davis was like, you rejected it. No one thought that. No one was on his side. I don't know how he thought this was going to work. Too many people know way too much. Uh, but shit is going down. Felicity is there. She's in charge as the fourth rank, and she's giving out orders on what to do. They're all being attacked by Shadowborn everywhere, but they all seem to be like coming to the center of campus, and they're like, why is that going on? Um, Tor comes back in. She was hurt. Sayre is helping her. They and that's when they kind of admit that Excalibur is in the center of campus,
Which, why
ready
did they
for
never
Arthur
mention this before? Like, the way that this is mentioned
because
just so
it's a
casually, and they're like,
secret.
well, this is actually a big secret. And I'm like,
Well, it's like Cell being Shadowborn, partial Shadowborn. They're like, no one talks about it. It's just like you're a really good guesser, Bree.
uh,
Because of plot devices, Laura.
because I'm like,
So
why were we not testing people with this before?
well, it was also just one of those things where they were like, well, it's in the center of campus. So, like, if the Shadowborn aren't finding people, they're going to go towards the center of campus. And I'm like, this is a very large campus. They should still be attacking people,
Right,
but okay.
right.
It's just, okay. It's an empty campus tonight. They're all out of town. Um, so they all, and she also tells them about what's going on with Nick and Davis. Again, full-heartedly, they're like, sure, we believe you. Totally. That tracks.
Hmm.
No
Right.
one thought you left Nick, so we believe you. Um, Vaughn shows up and they're all like, you ran with your tail between your legs. And it's discovered that like he was probably being saved for Nick because he was quote unquote good enough for him to
Basically,
Davis because he's
Lord
a white
Davis
man.
wanted him to be there because, he white
And
man.
he's kind of like, look, I know that I tried to beat Bree literally, but I'm a good guy kind of because I'm here now. And Bree, you should use a sword because
You're
you're
good with
foreshadowing.
swords,
Is foreshadowing.
and you're
And so
kind of awful with axes and bow and arrows, so a
they
sword is
all
your best thing.
they all head out and Bree gets like put with Fitz, who's one of the scions, and Evan, his squire. They are attacked by imps and Fitz is killed. And like Bree has a very visceral reaction to this. I was horrified. I was like, wow, this is very
Hmm.
scary. They move on and she suddenly realizes that she can't hear Evan's footsteps, which means he
Hmm.
is shadowborn.
Yep.
Um, he realizes
Which
she
Bree is
knows.
very perceptive with this kind of stuff, and I give her credit because this was one of the things like I did not see this coming.
I didn't see it coming either.
Like there were many things that we're about to get into that I'm like called
So
it
many things. Oh,
mile
yes, but
off.
Evan
But
being
this one
the
I was just like, "Oh, this came out of nowhere."
right. So
And
they
it was
fight.
shocking.
He reveals himself to be Raz, who is like Shadowborn, and he is helping with the
Hmm.
line of Morgaine. He worships Morgaine, and he has killed the real Evan, like farther back. He's been hiding for a while. He's like, "Hey, that Davis really threw me a couple bones by opening some gates. You guys never saw me coming." Um, he also says that like he says something about like, do you know that if you kill an awakened Arthur, all of the lines die? And I was like, that can't be true
No.
because there was an awakened Arthur at one point in time, and that person did die. So
Right.
no, no, that's not true. And I still don't understand why that was said outside of like making things scarier. It did not make sense. So I'm
Right.
still trying to figure that out. Anyone else who understands that, who hasn't like read spoilers, let me know if I'm misreading that because I was confused.
I don't know if it just means like they're killed versus I don't know,
I
versus
don't
dying a
know.
natural death. I don't know.
Or if it's like the wheel of time where it's like once Lews Therin dies, like
Hmm.
another wheel happens, but like
Right.
for a century it's bad. I was confused. So anyway, she pushes him off a cliff and then she's like, "Hey, I think he's dead." And she moves on and immediately it's like, "No, he's not dead. Also, he killed Whitney." He just pops back up as she like gets into the center where all of this stuff is going on. Everyone's fighting. She interrupts everything. Like Davis is trying to get Nick to be scared and grab the Excalibur and waken Arthur. He's like screaming at him. There's Shadowboard everywhere. Witty dies. Like people are just they're not Witty. Yeah, Witty. Yeah,
But
Witty's killed by Raz. Um, and they're all like fighting. So Nick goes to save them all, and he tries to grab Excalibur, and nothing happens. Then Ray's grandmother enters her mind and she goes, "I found the one who you needed to speak to." And we find out about Bree's history in a very sad and beautiful chapter.
hmm
We find out that one of the women from her past who was into, root magic was a slave. She is out and she sees the master's wife having an affair with the man from down the road. And then the master rapes her.
Yep.
She gets pregnant and he finds out and he goes to kill her, or she's convinced he will kill her. So she flees. Um, and so she does get away, but she's like scared. She's being chased after. And so she binds her child's blood to protect them all. And then she like kind of sees this history of these women, like everything that's gone on after this. And it goes down to seeing a woman who has Cell's eyes, taking away the memory from speaking to her during her mother's death in the hospital and admitting to her that she won't remember this, but she was her friend. And then she knows what to do, and Bree takes Excalibur, and all of a sudden
She's able to pull it out of there.
Arthur is there in her head, ready and willing and able to fight with her. And they all fight them off with Cell teaching Bree how to work with Arthur and the fact that she's left-handed, and she realizes that Nick is Lancelot. Uh, and she is able to kill Raz. And Arthur immediately is like, "Hey, Davis, you're not the leader. I am. So like bow down and like take it." And so they kind of do. It's like a moment where everyone bows down because Arthur's insisting on it.
But
Uh,
it's weird because, and this is where the whole like Luz Theron of it kind of it feels Luz Theron-ish because you have like a voice that is not Breeze who is telling people to
them all
do
what to
things, and
do.
she's like, I feel no, don't bow. I feel uncomfortable with
Don't.
this.
That's weird. Please don't do that. Then they do. And she also has this moment where she's like looking at Nick. She's like, "Do I love Nick, or is it just like he is my right hand man,
Right?
and
She's like,
we
is
have
this
this
just a
internal
connection
connection?"
because of him
Arthur and
being King
Lancelot.
Arthur and Lancelot? Like,
Were Arthur and Lancelot in love? I kind of love that.
I don't
Except
know.
I don't know. Who knows? We're about to find out in book two. So she does like see them all brow, and then she says, "Please stand," and she passes out. And then we wake up to she woke up into the most YA part of this novel where I was like, oh, this happens in every YA novel, and I
Where
forget that
somebody
it happens.
passes out and wakes up, and then there's
And
just a
like
huge, big explanation of everything that's happened.
exposition dump of like, hey, something big is going on, and you're gonna have to read about it in the next book because you are a high schooler, and so we need you to pick up the next book immediately, or you're gonna forget what happened. So we
Yes.
have to leave you on a cliffhanger, because that's what we do. Resolution, never heard of it. So, um, she finds out that they put Excalibur back, and suddenly
Which, why would they put it
Cellverse.
back? I don't.
Well, because you only want to use it if you're like fighting. You don't want it just like hanging
Oh,
around because other people could pick it up then. Like you want it back in the stone so that only Arthur could pick
okay.
it up. It's a safety mechanism.
Okay, I
Um,
guess.
but then Sal bursts in and he's like, Nick's gone. Davis took him. He's gonna try to use him for power as a bargaining chip, so we all have to listen to him or Lancelot's not coming back. Um, and then Tor is the worst apparently. Like she's so bad in this section, but I'm not shocked, but also
I don't
shocked.
know. It's. I don't think that any of that is surprising because she's just like, I'm gonna be the one in charge here, and
I'm a hothead, and so I get to say
I'm
stuff
third
and have
ranked.
no repercussions whatsoever. So she's like, I'm third ranked, so I'm in charge. And Alice is quick to be like, Bree's in charge. She's first ranked. Um, and
Definitely Brie.
Tor tries to make an argument of like, well, you were a mistake and so you shouldn't be in charge, which logically is just so inconceivable because
Hmm.
like all that happened was you both were born.
Right.
That's it. So like you have no better like rank
Exactly.
by
It's like
birth. Like
you
it's
are not more deserving of this.
it's definitely like that weird thing of like, well, you were a product of horrifying things,
Hmm.
so you don't deserve this. And it's
So
like
you're not
that's
as
not how that
worthy.
works.
Yeah.
Um, and so like she does mention that her connection to Arthur is probably different because they're like, you don't react to him like the others do. No one's ever been able
Hmm.
to have him speak through them, do all this stuff. And they're like, well, she's a medium and a blood crafter, so that
Right.
probably has some effect to it. Um,
Yeah. So she's got like these dual power.
and so when I was reading this, I did know about the whole like, oh, there was an affair, but I had a moment where I was like, are they saying like there's incest going on with like
Oh, that.
Lancelot? It's like then they were quick to be like, no, 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 no. Nick's family was a product of the affair, and they were never Davis's. They were part of
Yeah.
Lancelot's crew. That's where that came from. And so they said, no incest storyline for us.
So
No,
you were
thank you.
thinking that like the Brie and
I was just
Nick
very
thing was
confused
like,
where it's
oh
like,
gosh.
I was
Yeah.
like, oh gosh, is that gonna be what breaks them up? Because like good, but also don't make them make out before that.
Yeah.
Um,
They did too many things.
she points out uh that like there's a lot of pain in my line. There's a lot of like feelings behind it.
Hmm.
And again, like Taurus trying to say like, well, you're a mistake. And Bria's like, excuse me, are you saying chattel slavery for hundreds of years and subjugation was just like a quote unquote mistake? Because like that's not an accident
Right.
or no, she tries to call her an accident. She's like,
Hmm.
that was a choice. That was not an accident. That was other people doing something. And like now here I am. So like I have a right to be here just like anyone else in this room. And no one wanted to choose this. Um, she is like, well, we're gonna have to figure out what to do. We're gonna have to go get Nick. And they're like, Davis is gonna try to use you to overcome Nick because like Nick loves you. It's been 2 weeks. It's been
And
two
that's where I
weeks.
was like, it has been 2 weeks
And
and
they've
they
maybe
are
hung out five
in love.
times. They've maybe hung out 5 times. Like this is just the beginning of any
Even
college
18-year-old me was not in love after two
this is
weeks.
the beginning of every 18-year-old situationship where it's like, I slept over twice at his house, so I'm pretty sure we're dating. Like we both know when that has happened to people, and it's definitely happened, and it's just very upsetting to read as an
But
adult when you're like, no,
in
you're not
love
in
though,
love. You guys got drunk at a frat party and you slept
I
over at his place
I don't
because it
know.
was
I
2 in the
feel like
morning.
most 18-year-olds would maybe not say in love.
I don't know. Well, they are in love because they have deeper feelings. So
I
anyway,
guess.
she loves Nick. She like goes to talk to Sal by themselves and she's like, man, my feelings are complicated. Um, but also Sal, your mother wasn't evil. Everything you've been told about her is a lie. Uh, and then he's like, don't worry, you're my king now. And she's like, yeah, but you're sworn to Nick. And then she's like, my heart is missing. Nick is gone. I love him. And then the story ends. That is the end. She loves Nick.
Well, basically, she's like, I'm gonna go after him. And here's the thing. I'm in love with him. And I'm gonna have to
No,
figure
you're
out
not.
what I kind of pictured the ending of this as like you're like kind of panning out from
Mhm. Oh
everything
yeah.
and you're seeing the characters and her voiceover is telling you all this. Like,
Yeah.
here's the thing. When I started early college, I had no idea of the journey that I would be taken on.
It's been 2 weeks.
And I didn't know all the wonderful people that were going to come into my life. I'm in love and I'm going to have to figure out where this journey is going to take me.
And
And
where
I'm willing to
Cell
fight for it.
and where Cell fits into all of this. Because he has to fit in somewhere. Like, no,
Hmm.
honey. No. So that's the end of book one.
So that's where
This
we are.
I didn't love the ending, but I loved the journey, so
Yes.
it was fun. Yeah, I liked it. It was good
I
time.
also enjoy this. A plus for YA novel.
I mean, I gave it 5 stars. It's getting 5 stars
Absolutely.
on a pure like subjective. I still don't understand the whole like if you kill the line of Arthur, you kill them all. I'm like, no, you don't.
I
That's
don't understand
specifically
that. I
not
also
true. Arthur has been
if
awoken before. That's not how this works.
if someone could explain the whole like d dead at 35 thing to me again, like that would be great.
The dead at 35. You die by
No,
35.
seriously, like I don't get it. Like,
Well, it doesn't make sense because like it's also like it's not like, oh, your body wears out and you just die. There's also like, hey, you might tragically end like her mother did. Like what was she
yeah.
just driving and she's like, oh, 35's coming. Well, like, no,
I know it's
that's
like
not.
I'm picturing like a clock. Like,
She's like
like, what?
driving to get away from middle age. Like I don't
I don't
understand.
know.
So there are certain things in
And
this book.
also, honestly, the worst thing though was the timeline. Just like so fast that it's just I wish it was stretched out over a semester at least.
At least give me a month. Like a whirlwind romance in a month, fine, whatever. Have them hang out more than 5 times,
Hmm.
please. Like, does she
This is a
know?
long book, but I honestly feel like it could have been a lot longer because we could have stretched this out, added a few more activities that the order was doing throughout the semester, made this a semester long thing,
Hmm.
and then the next book picks up in the second semester.
Does she know his favorite color? Does she know his favorite pasta shape?
This
Does
is
she know his favorite song? Does she
this is
know?
Andy and April getting married. I cannot tell you guys how little we thought about this. April, what's your middle name?
Roberta. Oh, your middle name's
Roberta.
Roberta. Ew. I cannot stress how little we have thought about this.
It's it's
I
what it
have
is.
I have Brita filters that are longer than their
Yep.
relationship. Wait, should I be changing my Brita filter?
Two boneheads who I love dearly are about to make
The
the biggest mistake of
biggest
their
mistake of their
lives.
lives. Unless I step in and stop it.
Oh,
Two boneheads who I love dearly. What a great way to describe at least one bonehead who I love very much. And
oh,
then there's Nick. So like, what are you gonna do? And he's just kid. He's
oh.
just Lancelot, guys. He's
I
just
want to
Lancelot.
know. Honestly, that is excellent comparison. Like
Yeah.
Ken thing. Yeah,
Yeah, he's
I
just Ken.
I think that that's great.
And as we know from Barbie, that relationship cannot last for
His Mojo
eons.
Dojo Casa
His
House.
Mojo Dojo Casa House and his toxic masculinity are just like all coming up. No, thank
Mhm.
you. So yeah,
But we're
cannot
back
wait to
next week
dive.
to
Yeah,
talk
we're
about
back.
characters and
Themes,
themes and
characters galore, and to
all
figure out
of the
what
things that
Raz
happened in
meant.
this.
To figure out what Raz meant by killing off the lines, because that's just what happens when people die, and
Yeah,
what they mean by died by 35, because all of these people like having children before age 35, which like
I'm
rude.
yeah,
Like
I'm confused by the whole 35 thing. Like what why that day?
So we're gonna
But
have to go do some research, guys, and we'll bring
yeah,
it back to you with all of our answers.
I'm
But
going on the Legendborn wiki apparently because I I
no,
need some
because
answers.
that's how you sometimes get spoilers, Laura. We haven't read the
Oh,
second book yet. You have to be careful. That's how I
they'll
definitely
have
found out.
spoilers for the second book?
Sometimes, yes, because
Oh,
I mean,
never
I
mind.
didn't look, but like I did see that Nick was Lancelot by last week when I was reading the synopses, and then I was like, well, he's Lancelot. That was a thing I could have guessed myself.
I mean,
Uh,
you could have guessed it probably. Because I
but
guessed pretty quickly. I was like, Bree's definitely got to be King Arthur. Like that's
right.
got to be the thing here.
If all
I
these racists weren't just watching her, I
Yeah.
mean, come on. Uh, but yeah, so guys, join
It
us
also
next
makes it
week.
funnier that it's scratched out. They scratched it out to make it look like he was. Oh,
All
do a
right.
better cover
Oh,
up.
do a better cover up. Well, I think the scratching out was just I mean, do a better cover up of like who your King's Page was. And also, why
Yes.
was it some big secret that like Sel's mom was a King's Page before? It just was very strange. It was very strange,
Uh,
guys. But join us next week to discuss the themes and characters and help
mhm.
us through this boggling experience. Also, please rate, review, and subscribe, or talk to a friend and get them to rate, review, and
Yeah,
subscribe, or download
sure.
some episodes. Share us around. We'd love for you all to join us on this journey. And cycle through Legendborn with us and join us over on Patreon if you
Hmm.
so choose.
And
Uh,
Discord too. We like talking to you over there, and it'd be
love
great
it.
to chat with you a little more if you're just a
Come
listener.
Come hang out with us for at least 2 weeks. We promise you will fall in love.
You'll be in love. There's no other way to put it. You will
There's no other way to do it. Like that's the
you'll
only
be in
way to do
love.
it. So make sure you're doing that and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.